Welcome to the Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos. It's time to pay homage to yesterday, which was the 17th anniversary of the tragic terrorist attacks of September 11th here in the United States of America. Now, that is for sure a day that will live in infamy. Um, those terrorist attacks that happened to the Pentagon, the plane that went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and then the Twin Towers, I think were an important point of unification in today's American society. That is something that, as Americans, we all remember where we were, what we were doing, and also the power of sport is evident through that day. You know, people remember the 2001 World Series with the New York Yankees, in which George W. Bush threw out the opening pitch that kind of signified to America that we'll be just fine. So I definitely think that was an important time in American history for everybody to really reflect on what's important to them, who's important to them, and making sure that you honor and value your loved ones. And for those of you who lost people in September 11th, I truly do wish you my sincere condolences, and we will continue to press on. Now, NFL wise, opening weekend had a lot going on. You know, we thought certain teams were going to be better than others. However, those teams did not triumph. Um, what I will say is that head coaches that were new coaching their teams, that are beginning their new eras, Matt Patricia, there were a number of coaches. His team probably performed the worst, but they were 0-7 against all opponents. 0-7 on opening weekend of the NFL season were new coaches. The Browns still haven't won a game since December 16th. However, they looked much better. Jarvis Landry, the star that you saw in Hard Knocks, talking about that culture doesn't happen around here anymore. He had a magnificent performance in a tie, 21-21 with the Steelers, had over 100 yards receiving. Tyrod Taylor actually looked decent, 15 for 40, 197 yards with one touchdown. He also had an interception. However, don't let that be overshadowed by the fact that he had 77 yards rushing on the ground. Could Baker Mayfield do that at this NFL level? He did it in the college level. Now, I don't know if he could do it in the pro ranks. However, Tyrod has shown that he's a versatile threat. Le'Veon Bell had something to say on Twitter. He took it upon himself to put up a little, the guy with the monocle, the emoji with the monocle. And then says, I've no shade. I'm just looking at the fact I've never seen an overtime before and how this actually works. Le'Veon, who you fooling? And everybody knows that Le'Veon Bell feels as though if they had him out there, there would not be a tie. That would be a dub for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Le'Veon Bell, if you feel like that, I would go ahead and have my agent make a call to the Roonies and say, hey, listen, you guys don't want to tie the rest of the year, right? So how about you guys pay my client Le'Veon his money? How about that? That's what I would advise my agent to do, Le'Veon. But yeah, your team, they did struggle a little bit against the Browns, but the Browns are a much better team. They're much improved. I think they'll be the most improved team of 2018. Jaguars beat the Giants, but lost Leonard Fournette, who is a key component to that offense. Leonard Fournette is a running back who's versatile, can catch the ball on the edge, can also run between the tackles. He's somebody who brings a physicality to that side of the ball that they need in Saxonville, because they have it on defense with Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell. They have a great defense, but Leonard Fournette brings toughness on the offensive side of the ball. So hopefully they get him back soon. The critic, as I like to call him, Jalen Ramsey, talked all week about the matchup between himself and Odell Beckham Jr. However, he was silenced. Odell Beckham Jr. had 11 receptions for 111 yards. Jalen Ramsey, when you run your mouth the way you run it, you have to perform and show up when you have the big names walk into your building like that, right? Oh, but wait, you guys were on the road. So when you go in somebody's house, don't go running your mouth thinking that you're going to ball, and then you don't show up and you let this guy go ham on you the way Odell did. He showed that he was worth the money. The Bucks beat the Saints in a shootout 48-40. The Saints still apparently have no defense, which is why Drew Brees will never win another Super Bowl. Surprise, surprise. Alvin Kamara always looks good. Great in fantasy. Ryan Fitzpatrick, evidently he wants the job in Tampa. He wants it. He wants it. Jameis Winston, when you come back from your whole Uber allegation situation, maybe you could be watching, because when I look at a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who throws 21 for 28, 417 yards, 4 TDs, to me, that says that he's somebody who says, you know what? I know I'm just a sub teacher. All right, family, I'll see you guys later. You know what? I may be the substitute teacher, but I want the job. I want the job. I want to be the guy who leads this team. So I'm going to go out here and ball and throw for 400 yards and have multiple touchdowns. And that offense looks much more fluid with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Jameis Winston, don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal talent, but you look at a guy who's been there for quite a while in the NFL, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's filled in certain roles. I think that he's somebody who could very well win the starting job for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Dirk Cutter's got a tough decision to make once Jameis Winston is done with the suspension. The Cowboys, I won't even talk too much about them. They look the same mediocre as last year. That Dak and Zeke combination hasn't looked good in the past 2 years. I mean, when are we going to see these guys make a splash like they did the first year they were both in the league when they were rookies? I'm not sure, but Cam Newton, he's still going first down all the way past Sunday. They won 16-8, ugly game. I really like the way Luke Kuechly balls. He's a warrior. I hope he's okay. I know he had a couple injuries that he dealt with. That man is a heck of a football player. Hopefully he can continue to stay healthy and play just a few more years in the league. He really takes a beating, but he's so smart, such a great football player. Performance of the week for me goes to your boy, that bad man that everybody talks about, Aaron Rodgers. The Green Bay Packers look dead in the water. But then you have old 12, who hurt his knee in the first quarter, second drive of the game, maybe, I think. Goes out, comes back in the second half. His team's down 17-0. Then the Bears get a field goal, they're down 20-0. For a half of this game, Khalil Mack was the player of the game. The man had an interception, a fumble force, a fumble recovery, the interception was for a pick six, and then he also had a sack. That man was the first man to do all of those things in a game since, himself in 2016. Khalil Mack is a baller, and I know the Raiders, after the way they looked on Monday night against the St. Louis Rams, I know they regret not paying this man the money. John Gruden said himself, we couldn't get any pressure. We couldn't get anybody out there. Well, coach, you just let your baller go. And he's in Chicago, and he will be the new monster of the Midway. Watch out for him in the NFC North because Khalil Mack is a difference maker. Definitely a Hall of Famer if he stays healthy just because of the way he impacts the game. He's so dynamic on the defensive side of the ball. He's got a great nose for the football. He's physical. He's strong. I watched him toss those Green Bay guys around like grown men. Haven't seen a guy do that way, that effectively since Reggie White. However, that was the story of the first half. Aaron Rodgers comes back in the second half. The man returns, throws 3 TD passes in the fourth quarter, leads his team to a solid victory over the Chicago Bears. And when I was watching that game, I said, there's no way. The Bears can't finish this game. Not at Lambeau. There's too much time. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. And what did he do? Created a classic, an epic moment for all of us to see, those of us who stayed up to watch the game. Aaron Rodgers has shown time and time again that he's one of the greats. He may be the GOAT. It's sad that he's only got 1 Super Bowl. Green Bay, spend some of that money, get him some talent over the next couple years. You pay the man $100 million, and he lets you know, even if I'm hurt, you're going to get your money's worth. So congrats to the Green Bay Packers for making that deal and getting that done. Monday Night Football-wise, the debut of Sam Darnold. His first play, he throws obviously he's a rookie, folks, and obviously he's going to take chances. He tries to throw the ball back on a wheel route that gets picked off for a pick six by the Detroit Lions. However, the tables were turned quick. Sammy the man was 16 for 21, 198 yards, and 2 TDs. He's a confident leader. Came back in after that and says, you know what? Brett Favre's first throw was a pick. I can go out there and still ball. So what does he do? Goes back out there, has a great game. But the Jets defense, I think, made the biggest splash. They had 5 turnovers. They had a few picks. Darren Lee, I really like him at linebacker. He is dynamic in the pass defense game. He's somebody who, when you're a quarterback, don't just look. He's going to follow your eyes. He looks like a safety at the second level. So if you have a safety like Jamal Adams or cornerback, and then you have somebody like Darren Lee at the second level, the Jets are going to be pose trouble for a number of offenses this season. Todd Bowles' plan is in effect. I really like what they're doing. Detroit and Matthew Stafford, they just look bad. Matthew Stafford, the first quarterback in the Lions home opener since the 1940s to throw 4 picks. And it makes me wonder, Matt Stafford, was he worth all that money? The man's been there 10 years and hasn't sniffed an NFC championship. So was that a bad investment? Not particularly sure, but he's flopping like the Detroit Motor City market. Now, moving right along from the NFL, college football, They had a few good games this weekend, right? I watched a few of them. Georgia made the 41-17 statement on the road against the South Carolina Gamecocks. I thought Gentry and them would be able to do something offensively, but they looked very pedestrian. Clemson barely beat Texas A&M in College Station. And stop the flip-flop, Clemson, between Trevor Lawrence and Kelly Bryant. Kelly Bryant has shown that he can run the offense. He's more experienced. Trevor Lawrence is a freshman. Kelly Bryant is somebody who was behind Deshaun Watson, who's seen it done at the highest level, and he's somebody who's been in the offense and played a full season in it. The way he's playing right now, I really think you're going to mess up the offensive continuity for the whole team, so why not just stick with one quarterback, which would be Kelly Bryant. Trevor Lawrence is great, but it ain't his time yet. Baller, he'd be a great relief pitcher, but as of now, I'd redshirt the man. If I have to use him, I have to use him. Michigan State versus Arizona State had all the makings of a college football playoff game. And if you think about the Arizona Sun Devils, Herm Edwards is the coach, so they play to win the game, right? They won 16-13. Manny Wilkins, I think this is wool over our eyes. I'm not sure that he's as good as his 300-plus yard passing performance average that he's had thus far this season. However, we shall see. They got to go to San Diego State this weekend, and I smell a letdown. Big win of the weekend for me goes to Kentucky's decisive victory versus Florida in the swamp in Gainesville, where Tim Tebow has given so many speeches. He's got a statue outside. Tim Tebow said something about Kentucky not being able to beat Florida. Benny Snell called him out. Speaking of Benny Snell, 27 carries for 175 yards. That man is a truck stick. He talked in third person earlier this season at SEC Media Day, and I said, this guy can't even get the third person talking right. But you know what? Benny Snell earned to talk in third person. He earned the right to speak that way because of his performance on the road in Florida against a newly coached Dan Mullen team who claimed that they were going to dominate Kentucky. From what I heard from sources, close to the program, they were going to drop 70 on Kentucky. That did not happen at all. Kentucky went into the swamp, played great defense, and now, for the first time in I don't know however, they control their own destiny in the SEC East. Kentucky football? Oh my gosh. Well, Kentucky's matters this early in the season, so we're just going to have to deal with it. So that game with Tennessee at the end of the year, that will mean something. Tennessee down this year. That game with Georgia will mean something. So I really like the way these Wildcats look. They look like wildcats out there. Shout out to Josh Allen for the strip sack at the end of the game that helped them win it. The big game this week is Ohio State versus TCU. Urban Meyer still can't coach until after this game. However, he can coach in practice. He can't coach the game. I'm sure he'll be watching. That will be a great game. I think Ohio State will go on the road and win that. They usually have success on the road in these big games. I remember them back in the day playing against Oklahoma and James Laurinaitis. They busted them. I really look forward to watching that on TV. Sean Robinson, great quarterback, Gatorade Player of the Year a few years ago in Texas, I want to say, for TCU. So I really think that he's somebody who is going to make a big difference, but he won't be able to get the win. Watson against SMU, good quarterback, but Ohio State, they got a great defense. The weather may impact college football this weekend. Hurricane Florence, the landfall is imminent for Hurricane Florence, and those of you who are in North Carolina, stay safe. The UCF North Carolina game was canceled, and so was the NC State West Virginia game. So as you can see, games are already being impacted. We will see who else has to move their game around. I know Boston College Wake Forest moved it up 2 hours. So be safe if you're around that hurricane in the Carolinas. In other news, let's finish with the welcoming to 2018. Yes, the welcoming to 2018, because these days people say and do things differently, no matter how far we made it in society. An Australian newspaper, the Herald Sun, published a racist cartoon of Serena at the U.S. Open. Now, the reason people are calling it racist is because, she obviously lost to Naomi Osaka, who is also half African-American and Asian as well. And Serena in the cartoon is pictured with over-exaggerated features, a big old nose, a big old flappy mouth, and then you see Naomi Osaka looks over like a cute little girl, cute little Asian girl who's just very small and petite, but Serena is this big, gargantuous individual who's stomping on her tennis racket, and the cartoon just has a stark undertone to it. There is definitely some racial There are some racial implications in this photo when you watch it. Um, how do you triumph over these images, Serena? The one thing I will say is I think they are definitely inappropriate because black folks don't look like that. You see these lips, they're juicy, but not that big. But the one thing I will say to you, Serena, is triumph over these images by just winning, baby. As the late Al Davis would say, just win, baby. Don't worry about what people say about you. When you're on top, they're gonna shoot shots. Everybody knows that. Have you seen Paid in Full? They're gonna shoot shots at you. So my advice to Serena is look past this, and the next tournament, don't let it be close. Not one set, not one game, not one match with anybody. Make it count. Run the table. And the next time you show up to when you go to the Australian Open, win their stuff in dynamic fashion. And then after that, I think you should just take out a big old piece of watermelon and just eat it on the side of the court. Just eat that watermelon and let the joke be on them. Okay. The next show we will definitely wrap. Thank you all for watching the Zono Sports Show. I love giving you the juice, and we'll continue to always talk sports. Make sure you watch the new day, new time, Wednesdays, Zono Sports on YouTube. Thank you for watching the Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos.